Now we are in this mini-series where we're looking for the 10 Commandments in the New Testament. We've done the first 3 commandments. The first 2 were clearly in there. The third one is in there even stronger, but it's scattered throughout. So there's nothing that's like almost word for word from the third commandment, but it's definitely there. And now we're on the 4th commandment. So go ahead and grab your translations of the Bible and open to your bookmark place in Exodus 20, verse 8 through 11. Okay, 8 through 11. Glasses again. 28 through 11. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. In it you shall do no work, you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your cattle, nor your stranger who is within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested the 7th day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Okay? And the parallel passage is in Deuteronomy 5, 12 through 15. Observe the Sabbath day to keep it holy as the Lord your God commanded you. There's a command already before this. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. In it you shall do no work, you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your ox, nor your donkey, nor any of your cattle, nor your stranger who is within your gates, that your male servant and your female servant may rest as well as you. And this is up through 15. And remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt, and the Lord your God brought you out from there by a mighty hand and by an outstretched arm. Therefore the Lord your God commanded you to keep the Sabbath day. Interesting that here it tries to tie it to rest for your servants and slaves, remembering that you were a slave in Egypt once and how hard it was or must have been. Well, in this case was, because these are the ones who came out. 4th commandment. So let's go ahead and have a look at Luke 4:16. Luke 4:16. Moment here. Okay, so Luke 4:16. It says, so he came to Nazareth where he had been brought up, and as his custom was, he went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day and stood up to read. So as was his custom. That was Jesus's tradition. So those of you who like to bash traditions and say, we must not keep traditions because they kill the heart. Here's Jesus keeping his tradition of going into the synagogue on the Sabbath and standing up and reading. His own tradition. And as his custom was, the word custom is tradition, same thing. He went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day and stood up to read. Now let's look at Luke 23, verses 55 through 56. Luke 23, verses 55 through 56. And the women who had come with him from Galilee followed after, and they observed the tomb and how his body was laid. Then they returned and prepared spices and fragrant oils, and they rested on the Sabbath according to the commandment. So the women who had followed Jesus, they rested on the Sabbath according to the commandment. Jesus didn't tell them to stop obeying the commandments. They were expected to continue to obey the commandments, and they did. Acts 17, 1 through 2. Now when they had passed through Amphipolis and Apollonia, they came to Thessalonica, where there was a synagogue of the Jews. Then Paul, as his custom was, his tradition, as Paul's tradition was, went into them, the synagogue, and for 3 Sabbaths reasoned with them from the Scriptures. It was his tradition to go into the synagogue on the Sabbath. And when he went in, he also reasoned with them. So let's go on to 18 verse 4. Acts 18 verse 4. Next chapter. And he reasoned in the synagogue every Sabbath and persuaded both Jews and Greeks. Hebrews 4:9. Of course, we have to get to Hebrews 4 if it's about the Sabbath. Can't talk about the Sabbath without getting to Hebrews 4. 4 verse 9. Okay, so there remains therefore a rest for the people of God. Now there's much more here about the Sabbath. Okay, but that's okay. Leave that. So even in Hebrews, in the New Testament, it says there remains a rest for the people of God. And you see the women following Jesus observing the Sabbath. 1 John 2:6. He who says he abides in him ought himself also to walk just as he walked. And he observed the Sabbath. Now you had exceptions like when he was healing on the Sabbath. And the rabbis didn't like it. Or not the rabbis, the leaders, the Jewish leaders, Pharisees, they didn't like it. Okay, but that has nothing to do with that. Jesus said that that is fine on the Sabbath. They didn't like it, but he said it's fine, and they argued why. Okay, that's fine, but that's like a point of what you can or cannot do on the Sabbath. That's not about whether to keep the Sabbath or not. Jesus kept the Sabbath. And if we're going to abide in him, we must walk just as he walked. Good argument. So we've gotten through the first 4 commandments, and probably the toughest one was this one. But we found it's not so tough. The harder one was the 3rd commandment because it's kind of scattered across the New Testament, but is really richly in the New Testament. But this 4th commandment of keeping the Sabbath holy is there. It's solidly there. May the Lord bless you as you seek him with all your heart.